What if I told you that the next $1 million AI startup is not going to come from Silicon Valley? It sounds unbelievable, doesn't it? Because for decades, we have been conditioned to believe that every great innovation and every great startup must begin in California. But today, a founder in Bangalore is building artificial intelligence for over a billion people, and a robotics company in Tokyo is teaching machines to think before they fail. A startup in Seoul is transforming the way businesses use artificial intelligence, and somewhere in Europe, entrepreneurs are quietly building AI that people trust. And one innovation ecosystem completely changed the way I think about entrepreneurship. And surprisingly, it was in the United States. It wasn't even India. In fact, it's probably not the country you're thinking of right now. Stay with me until the end of this video because I will reveal which innovation ecosystem shocked me the most and why every entrepreneur should learn from it. Along the way, I'm also going to share the pattern that connects all of these successful startups and their ecosystems. Once you recognize that pattern, you will never look at innovation in the same way again. Hello everyone, I'm Manisha Rawat, founder and CEO of Pat Frigate, and I'm also honored to be recognized in the IM Strategy 300 as one of the most leading intellectual property strategists. And for more than a decade, I've worked with inventors, founders, technology companies, and startups, helping them transform innovative ideas into valuable intellectual property assets. And on this channel, we just don't talk about artificial intelligence, but we explore where innovation is happening and why certain startups succeed while others disappear, how intellectual property creates competitive advantage, and most importantly, how ordinary ideas become million-dollar opportunities. And if you're interested in innovation, AI, patents, entrepreneurship, and business communication, you can also explore my online courses available through Pat Frigate. And now fasten your seatbelts because we are traveling across the world with the most exciting innovation ecosystems. Now let's begin where, every startup story begins. Silicon Valley. Whenever someone says the word startup, most people immediately imagine California. And honestly, there is a good reason for that. Silicon Valley didn't simply create successful companies, but it created an entire culture of innovation. Think about OpenAI and AI research. This existed for decades, and instead, OpenAI changed one very important thing. It made AI accessible to millions of ordinary people through ChatGPT. Within months, students, lawyers, doctors, designers, entrepreneurs across the world were using the same technology. And that is a powerful lesson. $1 million startups don't always invent something completely new, but sometimes they simply make powerful technology available to everyone. And that's exactly, what changed the game. Because here is something fascinating. For years, everyone believed this kind of innovation could happen only in Silicon Valley. And today, that assumption is no longer true. And, nowhere is that more obvious than India. Now let's talk about India. Let's fly to Bangalore first. Often called India's Silicon Valley, if you have been following the global technology trends, you will know that India is no longer just a software outsourcing destination, but it's becoming one of the world's fastest growing AI innovation ecosystems. And take Servom AI as an example. Instead of asking how do we build another chatbot, they asked a much better question. And that was, how do we build AI that understands India's incredible diversity of languages? And that single shift in thinking changed everything. Because innovation is not always about building the biggest technology, but sometimes it's also about making technology useful for the largest number of people. And that's exactly why investors are paying attention. Another fascinating example is Krutrim. And rather than creating products only for one country, the vision is to build an AI system or ecosystem that can compete globally while solving local challenges. That is a lesson every entrepreneur should remember. Don't build products for yourself. Build products that solve problems at scale. And because if your solution improves the lives of millions of people, the business opportunity often follows naturally. And here is a question for you. If Silicon Valley taught us to think bigger and India taught us to build for billions, which country do you think taught me the most surprising lesson about innovation? Believe me, the answer is completely surprising, and it surprised me. But before we get there, let's visit two countries, and that have quietly mastered something the rest of the world is still trying to catch up or still trying to perfect. Those are Japan and South Korea. So far, we have traveled from Silicon Valley to Bangalore. One taught us to think bigger and the other taught us to build for billions. But what happened next completely changed my understanding of innovation. Let's travel to the east, not to the Silicon Valley, not to India, but to Japan. When people hear the word AI, they usually imagine chatbots. Japan imagines something completely different. Imagine walking into a factory in Tokyo and thousands of robotic arms are moving with extraordinary precision. And now imagine one of those machines quietly stopping, not because it's broken, but because an AI system predicted that one of the tiny components would fail 3 days later. And that prediction could save, a manufacturer millions of dollars in downtime. And this is not science fiction. Companies like, Preferred Network are applying AI to robotics and autonomous driving and advanced manufacturing. This is all Japanese. It's built-in AI that quietly solve expensive problems. And that's a completely different mindset. Many entrepreneurs chase attention, but Japanese innovators often chase precision. And in business, precision can be worth millions. And now here is something interesting. While Japan focuses on perfection, another Asian country that mastered something entirely different is execution. Great ideas mean nothing without execution, because if Japan is known for precision, South Korea is known for speed. And think about how quickly Korean technology has transformed the world. Smartphones, semiconductors, gaming, entertainment, digital healthcare, artificial intelligence. South Korea does not wait for trends. It creates them. And take, Upstage, one of the South Korea's most exciting AI startups. Instead of building technology that only researchers understand, they created AI tools that help businesses analyze documents, repetitive work, and make faster decisions. That's an important lesson. And technology alone does not create million-dollar companies, but execution does. Because an average idea executed brilliantly will often, can be brilliant for some people. I think this is where many of the entrepreneurs struggle, because they spend months trying to build the perfect product, and successful founders build, test, improve, launch, repeat. And that's exactly how startup ecosystems grow together. But here is another question. What if I told you that some of the world's most trusted AI companies are not coming from Americas or Asia? Let's head to Europe. Trust. Trust may become, the most valuable technology. European approach innovation differently. Instead of asking how quickly can we launch, many European founders, ask something like, how do we build technology people actually trust? And that difference matters, because as AI becomes more powerful, trust will become more valuable than speed. And one company that perfectly represents this philosophy is Mistral AI from France. While much of the world was watching Silicon Valley, Mistral quietly became one of Europe's fastest growing AI companies, and not because it, shouted the loudest, but because it focused on building world-class technology with a strong emphasis on openness. Europe is remarkable in, innovation in healthcare, technology, industrial automation. Countries like Germany, France, Spain, and Nordic nations invest heavily in AI that improves manufacturing and sustainability, as well as medical research. So innovation is not just about building something impressive, but it's about building something that people are willing to trust. And now, after visiting Silicon Valley, India, Japan, South Korea, and Europe, I thought I had seen the world's greatest innovation, and their ecosystems. But I was wrong, because, the place that genuinely changed my perspective was not one of those. It was in the United States, it was in India, it was in Japan, it was in Europe. Think about this. It was a place many people rarely mention when they talk about global innovation. And that's where everything changed for me. Surprisingly, it was Africa. Yeah, it was Africa. And I'll be honest, I did not expect that, like many people, I had assumed that the world's biggest innovations only, came from Silicon Valley or other well-known technology hubs. And that was my assumption, but I was wrong. And when I started looking closely, I realized I had been asking for the wrong question. I was asking something like, what country has, the biggest technology companies? And then the answer was simple. Instead, I should have been asking a different question, which was, which entrepreneurs are solving the biggest real world problems? And because that is where innovation truly begins. Take Flutterwave, for example. Okay, have you heard of Flutterwave? Okay, instead of building another social media platform or another chatbot, Flutterwave solved a very practical problem, making digital payments work seamlessly across African countries. And today, it powers payments for businesses across dozens of markets. And that's not just a successful company, but, that's a complete infrastructure. And another remarkable example is M-Pesa, and that is, built in Kenya. Millions of people gained access to digital services through mobile technology, and even when traditional banking was not widely available. Now think about that for a moment. Innovation does not begin with the cutting edge technology. Yes, that is true. Think about this. Because sometimes it begins with, understanding a real human problem better than anyone else. And that is when something clicked. And it clicked for me. The biggest innovations don't always come from the richest country, and they often come from places where solving one of the problems can improve the lives of millions. And trust me, that's so true. That realization completely changed how I think about entrepreneurship. Now, let me share a personal experience that reinforced this lesson. Back in 2011, I had the privilege of representing India at an international intellectual property management program, and it was held in Seoul. And the program was conducted under, the framework of the World Intellectual Property Organization, popularly known as WIPO, together with the Korea Invention Promotion Association, and bringing together professionals from many different countries. So I met the delegates from Asia, I met the delegates from Europe, Africa. It was just, I was having a blast. I met the delegates from the Middle East as well and many other regions, right? What fascinated me was not, whose economy was the biggest, but it wasn't who had the most of the startups also. It was something much more fundamental. Every single delegate, regardless of where they came from, was asking the same question. And the question was, how do we protect innovation? And some were building medical technologies, some were building, agricultural innovations. Some people were creating digital platforms, back then, and others were focused on manufacturing. So, the different industries and different cultures, different innovations, different economies, and, the same passion for innovation. Yes, the same passion for innovation. That experience taught me something I will never forget. Innovation doesn't have a nationality. Great ideas don't carry passports. And that's true. And artificial intelligence is accelerating that reality even further. Today, a founder in Bangalore can collaborate with a designer in Seoul. A researcher in Tokyo can build, with a developer probably in Europe. A startup in Africa can raise investment from Silicon Valley as well. So the world has become one connected innovation ecosystem. And that is so true. And that brings us to Dubai. Okay, how can we, forget Dubai? Dubai fascinates me because it isn't trying to become another Silicon Valley, but it is creating its own ecosystem, its own identity. And by investing heavily in artificial intelligence, smart cities, digital government, and entrepreneurship, Dubai has positioned itself as a bridge connecting Asia, Europe, and Africa. And it reminds us that governments also plays a crucial role in creating environments where innovation can flourish. When talented people, supportive policies and advanced technology come together, extraordinary businesses can emerge. So after traveling through all of these innovation ecosystems and, innovation hubs, Silicon Valley, we've traveled to Bangalore as well, traveled to Tokyo, and then traveled to Seoul, traveled to Japan, traveled to Europe, Africa, and, ended up, in Dubai. So in this episode, we have actually traveled a lot of countries. Now, what is the real AI $1 million formula? Interestingly, it is not artificial intelligence alone. Yeah, it isn't raising millions of dollars from investors, but it isn't even, writing a perfect code. The formula is much more simple. First, find a problem that genuinely matters. And second, use artificial intelligence to solve that problem better, faster, and more effectively. And third, protect your innovation, your patents, your innovation, your trademarks, your copyrights, your designs, precisely your, gamut of intellectual property. Because ideas create value only when they are protected and transformed into businesses. And fourth one is built for the world. Not just your city, not just for your people, okay, not just for your country. The startups succeeding today think globally from day one. And that is so true. And finally, never stop learning. The entrepreneurs who will build the next generation of million-dollar companies are not necessarily, the smartest people in the room. Yeah, that's so true. They are the people who actually continued learning while everyone else believed that they have really already learned enough. And if there is one message that I hope you take away from this episode, it's this: the future of innovation no longer belongs to one country, and it belongs to those who can actually combine creativity, artificial intelligence, and courage. Yes, artificial intelligence and courage. Whether you're building from Silicon Valley, you're building from Bangalore, building from any other country across the globe. Okay, you have to remember one thing. you're building from probably a small room with nothing more than a laptop or an internet connection, your geography no longer defines your potential. Your ability to solve, meaningful problem does. And perhaps the next, $1 million AI startup won't come from places we are expecting, but it might come from someone who's watching this video. Maybe it could be you. It could be anyone. If you enjoyed this journey around the world's innovation ecosystems, and let me know in the comments below. And which country do you believe will produce the next wave of AI unicorns and why? I'm interested to know your perspective, and I would generally love to hear your perspective because innovation is a global, conversation. So if you found this video valuable, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and it means a lot for me. Okay? And if you would like to learn more about intellectual property, innovation strategy, artificial intelligence, business communication, you can also explore my courses in the description link below. And thank you so much for watching. I'm Manisha Rawat. And, until next time, keep innovating, keep learning, and keep accelerating. Thank you.